Calvin Cal Chetley, or usually called Cal, was a teenager from the reserve group who lived on the outskirts of Oklahoma. His life was simple. Cal lived with his mother, Sharon, and spent more time with books than hanging out like most kids his age. That habit actually led him to outstanding academic achievements. At school, Cal tended to be quiet. He didn't have many close friends, only Luli, his neighbor since childhood, and Donald, a classmate who also loved studying. Even though his life looked peaceful, there was always one thing missing in him: a father figure. Cal's father, Mac, was a wrestling champion who died in a car accident when Cal was still very young. Because of that, Cal barely had any direct memories of him, but the loss left a huge impact on the family. They never truly recovered. Cal's older brother, Mike, was the one who took it the hardest. Mike followed in his father's footsteps in the wrestling world and became a champion for several years. He used to be very close with Mac. They did almost everything together. After their father passed away, Mike slowly changed. His grief didn't fade. It only grew deeper over time. The tension between Mike and Sharon happened often. Sharon tried to stay strong for her family, but the situation became harder and harder to control, until eventually Mike chose to leave home and never came back. His departure added another wound for Sharon, who now had to deal with losing both her husband and her son. Even so, Sharon kept living her life. She hoped that one day Mike would return, even without any certainty. Meanwhile, Cal grew into an independent kid who was sensitive to the situation around him. He learned a lot from what happened in his family. Back in middle school, Cal won a science competition. Instead of spending the prize money on ordinary things, he chose to use it to start a catfish farm business. That decision paid off. His business ran smoothly and allowed him to become financially independent at a young age. One day at the lake, while fishing and thinking about how to fix the water pump at his farm, Cal was suddenly attacked by Billy, a bully at his school. Cal tried to fight back, but he still fell down, and Billy just left right after that. While injured, Cal met an old fisherman named Red. The man appeared out of nowhere, as if he had been there the whole time. Red praised Cal's courage for trying to defend himself, then gave him simple advice to always believe in himself. After that, Cal went home and treated his wounds. Like he usually did, whenever he had a lot on his mind, Cal opened his memory box. He looked at old photos of his father, reread the reports about the accident, and imagined what his life would be like if his father were still alive. When Sharon came home from work, Cal quickly put everything away. He didn't want his mother to worry. They hugged, and Sharon immediately noticed the injuries on Cal's body. But Cal reassured her by saying it was just a small accident. Somewhere else, in the Muskogee area, Mike, who was working on an oil rig, received bad news. Meanwhile, at home, Cal started thinking more and more about his father and brother. The feeling of missing them grew stronger, making him want to find a way to feel closer to them. After thinking about it for a long time, Cal finally found the answer: wrestling. The sport that had once been such a big part of his father's and brother's lives felt like a bridge connecting him to them. But Cal knew Sharon strongly opposed wrestling because of the painful past, so Cal decided to keep his desire a secret. He told his mother that he was joining after-school extracurricular activities, when in reality he was going to the school gym. There, Cal didn't immediately join the team. He mostly sat and watched the practices, trying to understand the moves and techniques being used. Slowly, Cal started learning in his own way. Later, Cal told Luli about his interest in it. Luli, who had secretly liked him for a long time, welcomed the story with full support. One day, Cal finally felt like he had spent enough time being just a spectator. He decided to actually join the practice, not just sit on the sidelines and watch. At the school gym, the coach, who was known for being simple and strict, tried pairing him up with Billy Marrow. The coach asked Billy to practice with Cal and help him understand the basics of wrestling. But the opposite happened instead. Billy saw it as a chance to take out his frustration. He immediately attacked Cal and beat him mercilessly until the coach stepped in and stopped the situation. That night, while eating together, Cal felt like he couldn't keep hiding everything. He finally admitted to Sharon that he had started wrestling. He also explained that he had to keep his weight at 135 pounds. Sharon listened seriously. She actually understood the reason behind Cal's decision. She knew her son wanted to feel closer to his father and also to Mike. But at the same time, the fear was still there. Sharon had already seen how wrestling affected the two most important people in her life. Carefully, Sharon reminded him that Cal hadn't seen Mike in almost 10 years. In her opinion, Cal might not really know his brother anymore the way he imagined. Sharon also wasn't sure Mike could help Cal reconnect with the memories of their father. Cal listened to all of it, but it was hard for him to accept. A few days later, his curiosity and hope about Mike grew even stronger. Cal wanted to prove that his mother might be wrong. Eventually, Cal searched for Mike's address. After finding it, he decided to go see him. One afternoon, Cal told Sharon he was staying over at Donald's house, then secretly left. Cal took a bus to Muskogee. Throughout the trip, his mind was filled with different thoughts about what the meeting would be like. He wanted to see his brother after so long, but he also didn't know what to expect. When he arrived, Cal immediately tried to find Mike's house. After some time, he found the address and knocked on the door. One of Mike's friends answered the door and let him in. As soon as he entered, Cal immediately felt something was different from what he had imagined. The house wasn't what he expected. The atmosphere felt unfamiliar. Mike appeared and looked surprised to see Cal. But that was it. There was no other meaningful reaction. His expression was flat. Mike even asked in a casual tone why Cal had come, as if they saw each other all the time. Cal tried to accept the situation. He didn't immediately get angry or disappointed. He chose to give Mike a chance, trying to understand that this sudden meeting might not be easy for his brother either. After a few awkward conversations, Cal finally revealed his reason for coming. He told Mike that he had started wrestling and hoped Mike could guide him. Mike's answer wasn't what he expected. The rejection was clear. Cal was hurt for a moment, but he tried to calm himself down. He tried to think that maybe Mike was just busy or not ready yet. With the little hope he had left, Cal still accepted the decision. He hoped at least their relationship could slowly be repaired. Heartbroken, Cal slowly walked out of the house and went home, thinking that maybe his mother was right. Meanwhile, Mike, also heartbroken after realizing there was nothing he could give his younger brother, sat frozen on the couch for hours, thinking about his life and the kind of person he had become. Somewhere else, desperate to save her youngest son, Sharon went to the school and spoke with the coach. Knowing everything Sharon had been through, the coach comforted her. And after suggesting that Cal should not be removed from the team, the coach promised to look after him.
Yes, I will.
On the other side of town, devastated by his interaction with Mike, Cal hurried to the lake to calm his mind, meet Red, and tell him what was bothering him. A few days later, at a high school wrestling match, a 135-pound wrestler from Riverdale got injured, and Cal panicked. Forced by this new situation, Cal called Mike at his house, but only reached his girlfriend. Because of that, he begged her to tell Mike that he would be wrestling the following Friday. However, Cal was disappointed when Friday arrived without even a word from his brother. On Friday, during weigh-ins at the gymnasium, Cal groaned in fear when he saw his opponent and started doubting his decision to join the team. Meanwhile, despite opposing Cal's new interest, Sharon decided to keep supporting him and came to the school. Then, while walking to the gymnasium, Sharon passed the school's wall of honor, saw Mike's name, achievements, and trophies, and stood there for several minutes, nostalgically thinking about her oldest son. During the match, to Sharon and Luli's horror, just as Cal had feared, Cal was brutally defeated by his opponent and lost the match. After realizing how difficult wrestling was, Cal considered quitting, but he was cornered because he was the team's only 135-pound wrestler. In the next few matches, Cal was brutally beaten and humiliated on the mat. Elsewhere in Muskogee, Mike, now unemployed and without prospects, went to a local bar one afternoon, hoping to kill some time. However, while there, an aggressive man provoked a fight and then punched him, and Mike fought back and defended himself well. Unfortunately, the authorities failed to examine the details of the incident, and Mike ended up in jail. Elsewhere, hoping to gain some perspective, Cal asked Donald what he thought about boxing. Then, as the boys were leaving school, they ran into Billy, who mocked Mike's downfall in front of everyone, and handed him the local newspaper announcing Mike's arrest.
Muskogee County.
Stressed by what he had just found out, Cal went to the lake to fish and calm his mind. There, Cal met Red, who, after hearing what was on the young man's mind, offered his advice. Inspired by this, Cal woke up early the next morning, rushed to Luli's house to borrow her scooter, and after lying to his mother by saying he had to leave for school early, Cal sped off to the courthouse in Muskogee. There, Mike's lawyer explained the situation and, on Mike's behalf, asked the court to grant probation. As the judge prepared to make a decision on Mike's case, Cal asked to speak on behalf of his brother. Mike was deeply moved by Cal's gesture. After that, the two brothers went to Mike's house to talk. Then, hoping to make up for all the time he had not spent with his younger brother, Mike accepted Cal's request and agreed to teach him wrestling. Meanwhile, Sharon contacted Luli to ask for information, but once again got nowhere. Then, Cal went home and, after lying to his worried mother by saying he had been out with his friends, immediately went to his room and locked himself inside. After missing practice for weeks, which forced the team to forfeit matches in his weight class, Cal returned to the school gymnasium and prepared to join practice. Then Mike and Cal began their training and worked hard over the next several weeks. As the two spent a lot of time together doing intense workouts, they got to know each other better and started enjoying each other's company. After practice, seeing that Mike still hadn't found a job, Cal took the initiative to help him get work through his geology class, which Mike greatly appreciated. As Mike and Cal kept spending so much time together, they grew closer and bonded more. Mike continued training Cal as hard as possible, and before long, the next match arrived. Hoping to show everything he had learned from him so far, Cal invited Mike to watch the match at school. Surprised by the unexpected request, Mike took a moment before answering and calmly explained that he wasn't ready to face their mother or the locals yet, because he feared they would ask what he had done since his glory days in high school, and he had no answer to give. On the day of the match, just like Mike had taught him, Cal confidently stared down his opponent during weigh-ins. Then, Cal found a quiet corner in the gymnasium, listened to his favorite music, and calmed himself down in preparation for the match. Then, while Donald, Luli, and Sharon watched hopefully, the match began. Now stronger than ever, Cal stepped onto the mat and, using everything he had learned from his brother, won the match decisively. Without anyone knowing, unable to stay away, Mike secretly showed up at the gymnasium, hiding in the hallway and watching the match from a distance. And just like Sharon and Luli, he was thrilled by Cal's achievement. On the other side of the gym, Red, who had also come to watch Cal, sat quietly among the crowd and cheered for him with pride and joy. Meanwhile, hoping to remain unseen, Mike left the gymnasium before the match ended and before the crowd dispersed. However, as he walked out, he was haunted by the hallways of his old high school, filled with memories of his incredible achievements. Over the next few weeks, Cal kept earning impressive victories, and Mike continued secretly attending every match. Then, seeing how talented Cal was, Mike started making big plans. A few weeks later, as the school dance got closer and everyone started preparing excitedly, Luli asked Cal to go to the dance with her, and Cal accepted. At home, even though she attended every one of Cal's matches, Sharon felt that their relationship was becoming more tense. Hoping to convince her son that she would always support him, Sharon talked to him. Cal also understood his mother's feelings and reassured her how happy he was. However, not wanting to make his mother even sadder, Cal hid the fact that he had been training with Mike. Then one day, Mike introduced Cal to a wrestler named Nat, who later invited him to join their training group. Over the next several weeks, Cal trained as hard as he could with the men, strictly followed his diet, and gained noticeable strength improvements. At the training place, Nat pulled Mike aside for a moment. Nat wanted to make sure Mike was okay, not just physically, but mentally too. Nat knew his friend was trying to get his life back together, so he reminded Mike to stay focused, stay out of trouble, and face everything going on in his head. According to him, Mike used to be strong for Cal, and now that reason was still there. Mike, seeing Cal's progress, felt proud. He then decided to teach him a pretty difficult technique, the reverse cradle. Cal looked excited, and they spent hours practicing it until he truly understood it.
Good.
That night, Cal went to the school dance with Luli. At first, everything was relaxed. They enjoyed the atmosphere until Billy showed up and started bothering Luli with unpleasant comments. Luli tried to stand up for herself, but Cal didn't stay quiet. He immediately stepped in and shoved Billy to the ground. After that, Cal and Luli chose to leave the place. They walked around town while talking about what had happened. In that moment, Cal reassured Luli that he would always be there for her. From then on, their relationship became closer. Meanwhile, in Muskogee, after weeks of focusing on training, Mike tried to give himself a break. He went to a bar and ordered a beer. But before he could even drink it, Mike remembered the previous incident, the promise he made to the judge, and also to himself. Without hesitation, Mike immediately paid and left. The problem wasn't over yet. As soon as he walked outside, a group of men confronted him. They were still holding a grudge over the previous incident. Mike tried to calm the situation down, not wanting to get involved in trouble again, but the effort failed. When they started attacking him, Mike was forced to defend himself. A fight broke out, and although he fought back for a while, Mike eventually lost and passed out. The next night, Cal came to Muskogee for training, but Mike wasn't there. Cal was confused for a moment, but tried to stay positive. He assumed Mike was busy, so Cal trained alone before finally going home. When he arrived home, Cal immediately felt that something was wrong. He heard Sharon talking on the phone with Mike. Before long, the conversation turned into an argument. The situation grew more heated. Cal once again defended his brother, convincing Sharon that Mike would never disappoint them. Cal even said that Mike definitely wasn't drunk or doing anything bad because he had stayed away from all that for a long time. In the middle of the rising emotions, Cal finally revealed something he had been hiding all this time. He admitted that Mike was the one training him in wrestling and the reason behind all of his progress. Meanwhile, Mike ended up dealing with the law again. He sat in jail, frustrated with circumstances that always seemed to drag him into trouble. At home, Cal and Sharon spent time in silence on opposite sides. They were both trying to calm themselves after the argument. After thinking about it for a long time, Cal started realizing something. He didn't really remember the accident, but he felt that all the pain and emotions his family had buried for years might be connected to it. So, Cal decided to talk about it with Sharon. At first, Sharon struggled to control her emotions when Mac's name was mentioned, but she tried to stay strong and began telling the story. She explained that Mac wasn't just a father, but also Mike's coach. They were extremely close and almost always together. About 10 years earlier, when Mike and Mac were preparing for an important match, Mac was already confident in Mike's abilities. But Mike wanted to make sure of everything, so he asked his father to go with him to another town to personally check out his future opponent. Even though Mac had doubts and Sharon asked them to stay home, they still left. During the trip through the snow, their car lost control. Mike was thrown out of the vehicle, while Mac didn't survive. The story explained many things that had felt unresolved in their family for so long. After hearing the story calmly, many things finally started making sense to Cal. The pieces that had always felt disconnected slowly came together. Cal began to understand what had really happened in his family. Cal could see how Sharon was still carrying wounds that had never fully healed, but what he felt the most was for Mike. Cal started to understand why his brother had seemed so empty all this time. The guilt, the loss, and the burden Mike had kept buried were far greater than Cal had ever imagined. A few days later, Cal and his team prepared to leave for Tulsa to compete in the regional tournament. On the other side, Sharon came to visit Mike in jail. Meanwhile, in Tulsa, Cal was accompanied by Donald and Luli, who kept supporting him from the stands. With all the focus and training he had gone through, Cal managed to win match after match until he reached the semifinals. Even so, his mind wasn't truly at peace. Mike's problems kept bothering him. Cal couldn't even enjoy the victories he achieved. Eventually, Cal chose to go home early. In Muskogee, Sharon managed to get Mike released. She drove him home and saw for herself how her son had been living all this time. The house felt cold and empty, reflecting how closed off Mike had become. Seeing that condition, Sharon finally opened her heart. She said what she had been holding in for so long. She realized that all Cal wanted was to bring their family back together. Mike listened seriously. For the first time in a long while, Sharon hugged her son again, trying to comfort him. That night, when Cal got home, he immediately looked for his mother. He wanted to know how Mike was doing. When he heard that his brother had been released, Cal felt relieved. Surprisingly, after learning about Cal's achievements at regionals, Sharon actually started supporting him to keep pursuing wrestling. The next day, at the semifinal match, the gym was filled with the cheers of the crowd. As usual, Cal took a moment alone in the corner of the room to calm himself before competing. But this time, the silence made him think more deeply. Cal realized that wrestling wasn't really his main goal. Everything he had done was actually about something bigger, fixing his family. As he looked around, Cal couldn't find Sharon or Mike. Without any clear answers, Cal almost decided to leave the arena. But on the way out, Cal ran into Red, who once again appeared at an unexpected moment. Red's presence gave Cal the push he needed to keep going. Cal finally decided to come back. Cal went to the bathroom, washed his face, and tried to pull himself together. When he returned to the arena, Cal searched the crowd for familiar faces. He found Sharon sitting there, which made him feel a little relieved, but Mike still wasn't there. His thoughts became messy again. Cal struggled to focus once the match started. In the first period, he even looked overwhelmed and had trouble dealing with his opponent. But in the middle of the match, just as Cal was close to giving up, he saw something he never expected. Mike walked into the gym. He sat in the stands, proudly wearing the team colors. Seeing that, Cal's spirit immediately came back. It was like he had gained new energy. With full focus, Cal turned the match around and eventually won. During the break before the finals were announced, Mike immediately approached Cal. His face looked proud. Mike congratulated him while standing beside the coach. He didn't say much, but it was enough to make Cal feel confident. Mike only reminded him to stay focused and give it his best. A few minutes before the final match started, Mike let Cal have a moment alone. Cal put on his earphones, listened to music, and tried to calm himself while mentally preparing for the biggest match of his life. On the other side, Mike briefly met with Sharon. They talked for a moment about the match, then went back into the gym. There, Luli approached Mike while carrying a large gift box. Luli asked Mike to give it to Cal before the match started. Mike and Gnat brought the box to the locker room. When Cal opened it, he went silent for a moment. Inside was a small pump and a wrestling robe specially made for him. He was truly touched. Not long after, his name was called. Cal proudly put on the robe. Accompanied by Mike and helped by Donald, Cal walked toward the arena. His presence immediately caught everyone's attention. As he prepared to step onto the mat, Cal noticed something that made him curious. From a distance, he saw Mike greeting Red. Cal didn't know how his brother knew the old fisherman, but the moment felt strange and warm at the same time. The final match began. Mike sat beside the coach while the gym was filled with tension. Everyone watched Cal's every move. Cal fought with everything he had. He didn't hold back at all. Every second felt heavy, every movement filled with effort. But after a hard battle, the judges finally made their decision. His opponent was declared the winner. Cal failed to win the championship title. But for Cal, that result wasn't everything. He didn't feel like he lost. In fact, he felt like he had won something far more important. His family had finally become whole again. Filled with gratitude, Cal immediately approached Mike and thanked him for everything he had done. After that, Mike also hugged Sharon and Luli. Sometimes, victory isn't about the final result, but about the journey you go through. Not long later, Mike climbed into the stands with his family. The crowd who recognized him began applauding. They appreciated everything Mike had accomplished and his contributions to wrestling. Mike looked emotional, receiving all of it. Something unexpected also happened. Billy approached Cal and congratulated him on his effort. Cal accepted it with a calm and mature attitude. In the middle of the emotional atmosphere, Red quietly left the gym without drawing attention. He walked away peacefully, as if his job was done. With Mike now back by his side, Cal continued his journey. In his senior year, he managed to win 48 matches, proving how far Mike had come.